The godfather of the British blues himself, John Mayall. It's Dave Lawrence from Hawaii Public Radio. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
It's great to hear your voice again, and what a nice sound it has. Can
Well,
you hear?
you've got a radio voice.
Say again, brother?
You've got a radio voice.
And you've got a legendary bluesman's voice. So,
Okay.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sure.
It's great to talk to you again, John. Thank you for taking a few minutes for us.
Okay.
And I'm going to be running this not that far before the shows, so your birthday will be following it, not that many days later. Happy advanced birthday to you as well. Just days from your 83rd birthday.
There you go. Keeps going on.
It certainly does. Can you believe you're still doing this?
Not really. It's all very logical in its running order, So, I'm having a great time as always. So we'll just keep on doing it.
You got Jay and Greg still in the band that you're going to be bringing to Hawaii?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we're having great fun as a trio.
That's what I've been reading, and I was examining your life and thinking about the many different times that I've gotten to talk to you throughout my career, and trying to think of some things that we've not previously discussed that I think listeners might enjoy. And I was taking a look at your father, Murray, guitarist, jazz fan. Is that who you'd credit with introducing you to music?
He didn't do it directly, but when you're growing up in a house where you hear the only records you hear are kind of jazz records, so, and he played guitar, not professionally, but he had a guitar and he played, so, you kind of steered the way you're going to be with the environment.
How about the role of your mom, Burl?
Yeah, she's always been very supportive.
So you would credit it more coming from Dad than Mom?
That's really a hard one to say. I always felt that I was on my own path. So that's the best way I can probably explain it.
And how did the blues begin to factor? I know he's playing jazz around the house, and as a musician, how do you get drawn to the blues originally, and about what age do you think that occurred?
Well, probably about 10. I mean, my first record was Ravel's Bolero, which was a strong rhythmic piece. But,
right.
I kind of branched out at my own. Records he had were, by Lonnie Johnson, Eddie Lang, and Spirits of Rhythm, people like that who were more blues-based. And, eventually when I got to be at 13 or 14, then I started to, collect my own 78s and went in the direction of boogie-woogie and, piano jazz that he wasn't interested in at all. So, right from the beginning, really, I've always gone my own way.
Yeah, no question, and we're so fortunate that you're still doing it in so many different ways. And what would you count as your earliest musical memory that you can reflect on all these years later?
I really don't know how to answer that one. My life is full of memories. You could go on forever.
Which instrument did you start with? You're a multi-instrumentalist, and then what's sort of the order of the progression to other instruments?
Ukulele was first, with a 4-string and very manageable for small fingers, and then went on to a bit of guitar, I suppose, and and piano was the main one that I concentrated on. Although we didn't have a piano, so I had to go and invade other people's houses and ask if I could, go and play their piano. So it's just a slow process. I never learned to read or write music, so it's always just been a hit and miss affair.
When did the first ensemble become part of your life, where you were playing with others on a regular basis?
Probably when I came out of the army, so I'd be 21 then.
And you ended up going to Korea briefly as part of the Royal Engineers. Were you drafted? How was that to be compulsory service?
Well, at that time in the 50s, as soon as you were 18, you had to be drafted. So there wasn't any choice about it. So, it changed later on, a few years later, where it wasn't compulsory. But that time you had to go in the army. So that's what happened to me at 18, and the smart enrolling officer, enlisting officer, gave these lectures. You had to do 2 years of national service anyway, but he just pointed out to this, impressionable cast of youngsters that if you signed on for an extra year as a regular soldier, you could get more pay and more leave and all that stuff. And I got talked into signing on for the extra year, so 3 years, and that was in the third year that I was in Korea.
And during any of that time, was music a factor in your experience with the Royal Engineers?
Well, I played guitar. I mean, I'd been playing for quite a few years by then, so I did have a guitar.
So you brought it with you to Korea?
I can't really remember. I suppose I did, or no, I didn't. I didn't. I think I bought my first electric guitar was in Japan, when I was on leave.
Interesting. That's nice. Well, it has a connection to the Asia Pacific, just like starting on the ukulele, I should add, which is a nice connection to Hawaii, where you've played so many times. The importance of Alexis Korner and Cyril Davies, John, opening a blues club. How does that factor into how things worked out, both for you and the fermenting of the scene?
Well, I was up in Manchester, so I only read about it, but I was very, very much aware of it through Melody Maker, which was the only reliable source of information about what was going on in music of all kinds. So it was obviously a new thing that was buzzing down in London, and so they kind of kicked it off, and very shortly after, under Alexis's encouragement, I moved down to London and put my own band together.
And that's a great lead-in. I was just about to ask. So when I just had Jim McCarty of the Yardbirds on, and he was talking about the importance of Cyril Davies and how he fit into the scene there, and your name comes up, and we talk about the Bluesbreakers, talk about you creating this influential band and when it first began.
Well, it started as soon as I had a band in Manchester called the Blues Syndicate, and we played the same clubs on that same circuit, for quite a while. And then I said, like I say, Alexis said I should come down to London, and the other guys in the band didn't want to go, so I put together a band out of London-based musicians. So it just grew from there. And there was plenty of work because all the clubs were, featuring the same kind of music. We were all starting off at roughly the same time.
Yeah, that's what's interesting about it when you start studying it. There's so many cats like that all starting up at it's like kind of like a race, if you will. A lot of different people all hitting it at the mark. And in those early years, one of the things that made those early years special, and I'm assuming created some remarkable memories, is you got to back some of your blues heroes when they were making their first tours of the United Kingdom. And I have some of those names handy, but I'm just wondering what comes to mind when I mention that.
Yeah, I was, firmly established on the London blues scene, and, I was probably the first choice that the agents thought of for being the backing band for, the American bluesmen who were coming over there for the very first time. So, John Lee Hooker was the first one to come over, and they chose me as being the one most knowledgeable of his music to be his backing band on the club tour. So that started things off, and then after that I worked with T-Bone Walker for the same amount of time all over the country. Sonny Boy Williamson, not too many shows with him, but I did work with him. Freddie King, everybody was very enthused about having these American bluesmen come over and be backed by British bands.
And you point out something, and these were not just one-off shows, they were tours. You'd go throughout the country with them.
Yeah.
How many dates approximately would one of those be? 10, a dozen, something like that? Or?
Well, it would be 30 days. You'd work every night. You could drive to every gig.
For a month?
Yeah.
Wow, a month of time on the road with these guys. What sticks out about getting to work with John Lee? Were you very excited when you got that first opportunity?
Yeah, it was a great honor, really, and we learned a lot from him. It was a great thrill. What else can you say about it? It would have to be, wouldn't it, if you revered American bluesmen and they were put together to work with you. So you learn a lot along the way of what not to do and what to do. So it's a great learning experience. The thing I learned out of it most was the volume that we were playing at was quite unnecessary for backing someone who wasn't really playing that loud. So
Right.
so you learn a lot about dynamics all along the way.
How long did it take to get the set down? Being somebody who already loved their music, you must have been pretty familiar with it right from meeting them.
Oh yeah, straight away.
So it wasn't a whole lot of time to have to pick up the pieces. And in that time, you begin to have almost like a rotating group of guys who would go on to be quite influential on their own. One of them actually is now a Honolulu resident, John Mcvie. He was an early bandmate. Can you recall first crossing paths with him?
Yeah, well, John Mcvie was basically the first bass player that I had in my band. It was on a permanent basis. It was a roundabout way. There was I think there was another bass player who used to work with Cyril Davis, and he wasn't available, but he recommended somebody who was just learning the bass guitar, and he said he was interested in blues. So he turned me on to John Mcvie, who was still, I think John was still at school at the time. He was very young, and I had to get his parents' permission to have him go on the road with us. So on the road meant just going home every night, basically, except when you were up north. But I do remember that I had to convince his father and mother that he'd be taken care of and he was in good hands. So, so it grew from there. So John was the first bass player that was on a permanent basis.
I love that. I can just picture you with his parents with that skeptical look, trying to figure out whether
they were very smiley, and but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can just imagine. That was a real interesting scenario that you paint a picture of. And it's my understanding, too, John, it was after Clapton had quit the Yardbirds that he first briefly joined your band. Is that accurate?
Yeah, he was with me for a year with a sojourn in the middle of it, where he went off to Greece on that harebrained idea of his mates. They thought they were going to tour the world and turn people onto the blues, which was obviously a disaster. But no, Eric was with me for a year basically, and so he followed Roger Dean, and he joined because I made him an offer because he heard. He knew what kind of music I was playing, and it was the kind of music he wanted to play that the Yardbirds weren't. So it was pretty much of a no-brainer. He was out of work. I offered him a job, and we became fast friends. And I found the right person to relate to.
And you really, a great souvenir of that, marker of that would be the classic album, John Mayall's Bluesbreakers, featuring Eric Clapton. When you reflect on that experience, and clearly for a guy who's done over 50 records, 60 records, you have so many of them to think back on, but that one is one that has made a huge mark. Is there an experience from recording that sticks out?
No, the main thing was, I'd already made an LP, John Mayall Plays John Mayall, a year or so earlier on Decca, and it died a death. So basically, I was out of a record deal. But Mike Vernon, who then was an associate producer at Decca, he talked them into having me back on the label, and so they took his word for it that it would be all right. And from that point on, Decca never gave any. They just trusted Mike Vernon's judgment and my judgment without understanding what the music was all about. So we were left to get on with it.
Being a rising star, was Clapton at all difficult to work with, or you just knew that he was talented and he was on a path?
Well, he wasn't difficult to work with. We had a lot of fun playing together. That's been the hallmark of any band that I've had together. If it's not fun, then it's not going to work. But it was great to hear him develop, because he was given the freedom to really express himself rather than be pigeonholed into playing the same stuff every night.
And prior to him going off to form Cream, Jack Bruce also ended up being part of your band too.
Yeah, well, Jack came in at the point when Eric was out of the country on that Greece trip. So by the time Eric came back into the band, Jack was already a member of my band, the Bluesbreakers. So, from that point on, the two of them got together, and the rest is history, so to speak.
And some of that history, it's funny how it continues to come out. I mentioned there are a lot of John Mayall records for people to enjoy, and you can go online, John's website. You'll definitely see a nice listing of them. But recently, some classic recordings were released. Live in 67 and Live in 67 Volume 2 featured 3 original Fleetwood Mac members all backing you: Peter Green, John Mcvie, Mick Fleetwood.
Yeah, that's been unavailable to the public for so many decades that I knew of them, and I'd heard snippets here and there from Tom Hewson, who was the fan who had recorded those things in the clubs during probably about a month's time, just coming over from Holland. But so I knew of these tapes, but he didn't want to part with them until fairly recently, when we got together and thought they were too good to just lie around and not be heard by the populace. So we got together, and the result is, of course, we sweetened them up as best we could, and I put them out on general release so everybody has access to them.
Yeah, that's a pretty remarkable thing. Any particular memories of having those 3 guys together in the band?
Yeah, they were pretty crazy guys. There was a lot of drinking going on, and lots of tomfoolery. They didn't really take it all that seriously, and they just wanted to have a good time, and it was kind of free and easy. Peter Green was obviously more dedicated to the blues than the two of them were. So, but John Mcvie was an excellent choice for a bass player who knew something about the blues. So, he was out during the time that Jack Bruce was in the band. Boy, doesn't it all sound so complicated?
No.
But anyway, they forged a friendship there that led to Fleetwood Mac.
And it's funny how 2 of those 3 cats end up in Hawaii, huh? You got Mick over there on Maui and John here in the Honolulu area.
Exactly, yes. They've made their fortunes with Fleetwood Mac, and now they get to enjoy the Hawaiian sunshine.
Right. No question. And you mentioned it earlier, and it's a fascinating part of your life, which is the having some of these guys join the band at what seems like a really young age. And you told the great story talking to the parents of, I think, whose parents was that you were?
John Mcvie.
John McVie's parents, right? You're talking to. Another cat who comes into the band at a very young age is, and I could be wrong, but you'll correct me if I am, 15 years old, Andy Fraser, who would go on to form Free.
Yeah, he was a recommendation from Alexis Corner, because I think they'd been hanging out together, and Alexis had a sort of a freewheeling jam session, all these gigs with all sorts of people. So he recommended Andy that he thought would be, a person interested in blues playing on the bass. So Alexis recommended him, and of course he fit right in.
And did he require did you have to go and talk to his parents too and sort of say, hey?
No, I don't remember anything like that.
15 too, man, that is young.
Yeah, 15 and very small hands. He had a kind of a small bass. Bass guitar was rather small, I remember.
And you know what they say about small hands? Just playing games with you. And Mick Taylor, he ends up in the Stones, and before that, of course, ends up with you. Was he? How old was he? He was a little bit more established, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was 17, or I think he was 17, going on 18 when I first heard him. So he was probably 18 when he joined my band. Wow,
that is just incredible, some of these cats. And Mick ends up staying about 2 years with you, and really one of these guys who is kind of like yourself. He's like a cult classic in a lot of ways. A lot of people really respect his playing. When you think about his playing and what he brought to the table, anything come to mind?
Well, you're talking about the three guitar players that people talk about most, which should be Eric and Peter Green and Mick Taylor. They all had completely different styles. Mick Taylor was very much more into jazz than the other two were, and so that kind of shows up in his playing. But they're all completely different musicians as regards their style. So. Mick was a little more jazz-orientated.
Right. That's a good way to think of him. Recording with Paul Butterfield around that time, too, back in '67. Reflections on that?
Yeah, well, that was when Peter was in the band. So, Peter and I were both very thrilled to be able to be asked by Mike Vernon to come and do that session. So we just did four sides, and Paul sang two of the sides, and I sang the other two. So it was a good little meeting for an afternoon, and we put that out he put that out as an EP, which took a long time to reach international release. So there you go. It finally did come out.
That was one.
It was an EP at the time.
Right, exactly. An extended play, so not quite a full-length album. What prompted, and so that means then that some of the stuff that you recorded, you say you recorded 4 sides, so there's more of that never came out?
No, this is just 4 songs.
Okay, 4 songs is what you're saying. I got it. Got it. Is that was recorded in L.A., yeah?
No, it was recorded in London.
That was recorded in London. Okay.
Yeah, because Paul was over there with Paul Butterfield Blues Band, see, so.
And that's when you got him. I get it.
That's when Mike arranged it, yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking about because you're one of these many guys like yourself. A lot of your peers have, we were just talking about the Fleetwood Mac cats living in Hawaii. What prompted your move to California?
Well, California did it. I mean, the climate and just the way of life, and the fact that it was it just felt natural to me, so I've been here ever since.
And a long and storied history there, which is another story in and of itself. Back to the Roots is a record that, what fascinates me, not only the fact that you got Clapton and Mick Taylor back in the band for these 1970 recordings, but from what I understand, you did all the vocals plus the harmonica, the guitar, the keys, the drums, the percussion. Is that right? Like, what made you want to play all the instruments practically yourself?
No, I've never played drums on any album, because that's not my forte at all. And I don't think I played bass guitar either. No, it was just the guitar, just the lead instruments. So there's nothing on there except me playing lead. Mostly keyboards, I would think, and harmonica.
Okay. Albert King, you've gotten to do a few different things with, including producing for him. Also some collaborations documented in Blues Alive. Memories that stick out of that cat?
Yeah, well, I had, I'd known him, right from the, we had done the show with him, and so we already knew each other. And forget how it came about, but, we did get a chance to record an album with him, so I had total control about who we should be, because I always felt that a lot of Albert King's records all kind of sounded the same as regards to the backing that was put in front of him. So I just wanted to do something a little bit different, having given the opportunity. And so that's how I came to select people who were in my band at that time, in the Jazz Blues Fusion period, and put Freddie Robinson and Lou Mitchell and Clifford Solomon. They all took part in that session, and Keith Hartley, of course.
Thinking of people who are really important names that you were privileged to get to either select to work with or end up working with, Etta James, how does she factor into things for you, John?
She didn't like me at all. It grew out of the fact that she was on that all-star blues concert that was when Mcvie was in the band, and I forget. I think it was Polygram. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, whoever put that concert thing together, they contacted the musicians to take part in it. There was Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, Albert King, Etta James, and one or two others that they gathered for this big concert. So I had nothing to do with the payment of the whatever they were getting. I have no idea how much they paid them, but because they apparently didn't get their money, they blamed me. So Etta James always had this grudge against me. She thought I'd been using her talents and cashing in on her performance. So anyway, that never did heal as far as I know.
Well, that's a drag. Well, God bless her. Junior Wells, though, and Buddy Guy, they thought the same thing, or no?
No, I don't think so. It's just Etta was the only one who really cropped up as being somebody who was hostile.
That's a good way of describing it.
And she could be hostile, too.
Oh, I have no doubt. No doubt she could. No doubt about that. Buddy Guy, one of the most remarkable cats. I mean, you're again a life filled with remarkable cats, so it's a little different when talking to you about it. But where would you appraise his style when it came to working with him?
Well, he was just great fun to work with, and you couldn't ignore his stage presence. I did learn a lot from him about use of a microphone and just not putting your mouth right on it, so that's one of the things I did learn from him. He could project his voice from, a foot away from the mic and it would be heard. So that's one of the things that I did pick up from him, that he could do that, not have it, a lot of singers, they put the microphone right on their lips, and it's a kind of something I prefer to sing acoustically with the microphone. That's the way I treat the harmonica anyway.
I wonder if Guitar Slim was a cat. He got a lot of that stage presence from too.
I don't know. It's just it's just the way you should be singing. Really, you shouldn't have to press yourself on the microphone. You should be blending in with the band and just feeling it like you are in a small room.
Plus, as you pointed out, or were alluding to, and I'll point out because I use the mics every day myself, it's not exactly the best way to use the instrument to get that close to it. Some of what you're talking about, the proper way to use it. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to use it, but you get a better representation of the sound when you provide it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I've always been a believer in that, but Buddy Guy was probably the first one that I noticed that he wasn't pressing his mouth on the microphone, so... thanks to him for that. But he's a wonderful guy. We've known each other for years and years.
Yeah, he's a
wonderful. I first met him on one of those blues before I was a professional musician or even a semi-professional musician. He came over on one of those blues packages to England and the continent, and he was pretty young then, so he was rather shy at that point, and he was just mainly wasn't doing his own thing, but he was like more of an accompanist for the musicians on the package.
Right, so he was backing up people sort of like you were doing.
Yeah.
That's cool, and great friendship to have kept for all these decades, and just a really talented guy. We mentioned the producing aspect, and actually we've talked about different aspects of producing throughout the conversation. One of the late, great cats who did a lot of that, Alan Toussaint, he was a producer you got to work with, yeah?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anything stick out from him from those times? Well,
he was certainly not my cup of tea. He was totally opposite to anything that I would come up with. So for me, it was really an agonizing experience because he would only record you in his own way. He didn't really want what you wanted to play. He wasn't really interested in that. He was just using you as one of the other musicians in order to do his music and his tunes. So it was just an arduous business. We were in New Orleans to record it, and we were just hanging around most of the time, waiting till he got in the mood to come downstairs to the studio and press some buttons. But it was really a waste of time. And there's not much of me on the album that came out, noticed to appear. You know, it's like another Alan Toussaint album, but it's very, very. There's no improvisation on it at all. It's all very cut and dried. So, not one of my favorite albums, but
it does not sound like it.
It wasn't my idea in the first place, anyway. But some management thought it would be a good idea.
Right, and those things sometimes work out good, but not always. It's
a good album of good music. It just isn't me, really. You know,
right.
That's the only difference. But I could still listen to it and get a kick out of listening to it. You know, it's good music, but it's not me, really.
Thinking about getting a kick out and listening to it. That's a great description of that too, John. And I got to believe you feel more strongly about this, and I know you won't hold back. Along for the ride, all-star cast, the late great Billy Preston, Gary Moore. Also, we've lost Johnny Lang, Steve Cropper, Steve Miller, Otis Rush, Jeff Healey, Billy Gibbons, others. What was the highlight of doing that?
Oh, I don't know. Everything was a highlight on that one. It was a great opportunity to have all those guys, you know, just play with me, you know, and it was really pretty special. All the LA sessions, you know, went like a breeze, you know, and so wherever the musicians, there was some of them done in London. I think we got Jeff Healey was one of the London sessions, and Dick Exall Smith. I don't have the list in front of me anyway. So most of them were done in L.A. and all very swiftly, you know. But they were all great experiences. Billy Preston was part of that one, and Mick Fleetwood, John Mcvie, and Peter Green. Most of them were done in L.A. But then there was just the couple in Chicago where for Otis Rush and Sharon Kirkman and Greg Arzab. So it was I think it's a great album.
Jeff Healey, what an incredible talent, huh?
Yeah, really nice guy. All the people involved in that were really nice people you'd want to hang out with.
Yeah, I've always just been mesmerized by Jeff, and I mean people with that who. Jeff is blind, so it's like one of these guys who it defies so much of, you know, like you. I mean, we're so lucky to be able to see, and when you run into cats like him and what they bring to the table, it's just kind of stunning sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everlasting. You know, all the sessions were done, you know, one take, or I don't remember second takes of anything. It was just everybody went out with their instruments and just came into the studio, whatever studio it was, and just listened to the song playback, and then just burned with their guitar. You know, so it was just coming straight out their heads and no messing about.
Was that the only time you did something with Gary Moore?
Yeah, and that was sort of accidental. We were doing something in the studio downstairs in the building where he was working at the time, and he came downstairs, heard that we were playing there, so why don't you bring your guitar down, plug it in, and join us on this song? So he did that.
Gosh,
there again, just in one take, he just broke up his own session just for an hour. He came down and did it.
Well, I got to think, I mean, that's funny how you put that. You got to think for a lot of these cats, it's a really big deal for them to get that kind of opportunity. It means a lot for them. They're like really excited to get to break up their own session to go do that. I would think Steve Miller would have had the same sort of reverence for getting to work with you.
Yeah, same thing, exactly. And then most recently, of course,
Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh, you know, apparently wanted to play on my new album, so who was I to say no? If it didn't work out, then of course we wouldn't use it. But because, you know, I didn't know what his blues chops would be like. You know, I didn't really know too much about his playing. But he came to the studio and just dropped in and did his bit in one take on a couple of songs, and he was only with us for about an hour and a half total. So that's the way you should get your music done.
Right. Just hit it and quit it. I like that.
That's exactly right. We did all the backing tracks we never take more than 3 days to put the whole backing tracks for the album together.
That's set
They're all the first and second takes at the most, so you've got to catch that energy and the spontaneity of it. After 2 takes, you start to get stale, and then I would ditch it then. But it doesn't usually come to that.
Yeah, it's like fire. You got to get it while it's going.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I know what you're saying. Talk About That is the name of the record. It should be dropping in early 2017, right?
Exactly. I'm not sure what the date is. They haven't told me, but I've done the artwork and everything, so it's all ready to go. You
ever do anything with Stevie Ray Vaughan?
No, I never actually played with him, but I knew him, and he was, funnily enough, one of my guitars. He was the first one to autograph my guitar with a little message on it. So I thought, well, that's a good idea. I'll start collecting people's autographs. And before I put the guitar on the wall, I really filled it up with just about everybody I knew. All the greats are on there, so it's amazing. You ran a list a little while ago about people who are no longer with us, but their signatures on that guitar, so he started that one off for me.
That gives me chills. What a great thing, and he's the first one on it, too. That's gigantic. Well, on that note, sort of very much relating to it, sometimes the message of your songs, I was listening to Accidental Suicide, and it's such a strong anti-drug message, references Jimi Hendrix's death in there. Are there other songs you can point to where you were inspired to include such a strong social message?
Although I try to, if I'm going to make an album and I'm going to write songs for it, I usually try and, make at least one of the songs some social commentary. So I can't, off the top of my head, just think of them offhand. But I think on every album you'll find one that sort of talks about stuff. The Turning Point album had Laws Must Change. There's usually something there about what's going on in the world.
And you've been, as we go to wrap it up, you've been privileged to have a really long career, and you celebrated your 70th birthday. Eric Clapton and Mick Taylor, pretty amazing thing. From studying you, it looks like it was an 80th birthday celebration tour. Was there one show, or it was just a series of dates?
No, it was just one show.
It was one show for the 80th.
Yeah.
And who joined you on that one? Were there special guests at the 80th?
Well, Eric and Mick Taylor.
They were on the 70th, though. Did they?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. And I'm asking, so after the 70th,
you're fading.
Can you hear me?
No, you're drifting away. Hang on. No, I was wondering if I'd press some button.
No, can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, you're back again.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. I was thinking, I know that Eric Clapton and Mick Taylor did the 70th birthday celebration, but for your 80th birthday, was there a particular show that you did with some special guests?
Oh, no, nothing like that. No.
Okay.
With the 70th, I've already done that, so.
Right, I get it. So 80th, it was like a whole tour you did to celebrate your 80th birthday, from what I was reading.
Not really, no. I mean, that doesn't sound any different from any year.
Okay.
I mean, we do over 100 shows every year, so there was no particular celebration of 80.
Okay, all right. I was just when I look at some of the videos on YouTube, they're captioned as 80th birthday tour or something like that.
Oh yeah, well, if there's they could do the same thing for the 81st tour, or the 75 or whatever. It's just acknowledging a date when they recorded it or did it. So, well, just the music goes on.
No, that's the thing, and that brings me to my final question for you. And really, you talk about doing 100 dates a year, and when you tour, when I was just looking at your tour schedule online, often you're playing almost every night. As an example, in March next year, you are booked to do 26 nights in that 1 month. You will be 83 years old, playing 26 concerts in a month. And it makes one ask, do you do it solely just because you have had an entire life of doing this, so one could think, well, he's more comfortable being on stage playing than just about anywhere, or do you do it because it's hard to just not do it? Do you do it because of economics? It's just hard to believe that a guy that has survived as long as you have at that age would still be as so committed you'd be doing 26 shows in a single month.
Well, you're being very complimentary, I must say. I love to work. It's no big deal. It's not like all the big groups going out and doing a tour where they have 1,000 roadies and trucks and all that kind of paraphernalia. When we go on the road, it's just 4 people. The tour manager and the other 2 musicians. So it's just the 4 people, and we don't on U.S. dates we don't carry equipment of our own. We just, it's on the rider for them the promoter to supply the amplifiers and the keyboards and the drums and all that stuff. So, it's very hit and miss most nights, but, it's just what we do. You just make the best of whatever you got. And it makes it interesting, too. But, there's no fuss or palaver. Like I said, just 4 people traveling in a van. So it's very, very simple to do.
I mean, could you retire if you wanted to, or is this you just would prefer?
I don't know. I wouldn't think of it, as long as I've got the energy and the good health to give 100% of the show that people might want to expect. I don't want to be on stage, being limping on and sitting in a chair somewhere, and as long as I can leap about and give it full energy. I don't see any reason. I'm rather lucky in that respect that I do have good health.
I think we're all really lucky that you've got
Great.
That you've got the good health.
I shall keep on doing it as long as there's an audience out there, and as long as I can give the very best. Then that's what I'm in there for. But I do like it to be that many shows. When we don't have the days off, you're not wasting any time. So if we do that many shows a year, it only adds up to being about a third of any given year, which leaves 2/3 of the year for home life, and so you can't say that about a lot of bands.
Right, no, that's true, and so it does leave some time for you describe it very well. Are there hobbies? What fills those other time?
Oh, I don't know. I'm always active doing something. always busy.
You're a very busy man, and he's coming back. It'll be Wednesday at the Mac, tonight at the Mac. Then he's going to be at the Palace in Hilo Friday, Honoka'a People's Theater on Saturday, at the Blue Note Sunday, right in Honolulu. I'm hoping I can come over and record a short thing with you while you're in Honolulu. Would that be okay?
Well, of course, yes.
It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you. The great John Mayall, and really a treat to get you back on All Things Considered with me. I really do appreciate it, John.
Well, you've been very flattering, and I hope it goes out to a lot of people. So we're looking forward to playing in the islands. Hi, this is John Mayall, and I'm talking to Dave Lawrence, and in fact talking to you. And we're looking forward to playing all the shows in the islands.
Great getting to connect with you again. I'm giving you a big hug and a high five. I hope you had fun. It was a lot of fun for me.
Okay. Well, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yeah, you too.